In between other things I've got going on, I've been doing the odd half hour and hour here and there on my Trials Cub, as and when time permits. And we went out on it the other day. That ride I took on it was the first ride it's ever done on the road legally in all my years of ownership, over 40 years of owning it. So it was a landmark ride for me. But it didn't go too well. It made it home, but we developed a misfire due to some electrical gremlins part way round, which sort of spoilt it and cut the ride short. And I'd already changed the alternator rotor while I was doing some work on the clutch, because I'd had the bike running after it had come out of hibernation and found that the clutch was slipping quite badly. So I removed the primary cover to attend to that, and while I was in there I noticed that the core of the alternator rotor was loose inside its body. So I managed to find another rotor that I've got, a used one with good magnetism, that was in sound condition, so I fitted that. So obviously I disturbed the alternator both by swapping the rotor and taking the cover off, and maybe I thought breaking brittle wires or something. But anyway, I put it all back together and we had the ride on it, and it went so far and then it started to play up. So I thought, what have I touched last? The alternator, it might be something in there. So I had a look, and basically what I did is I disconnected the wires. Here's the original alternator, if you like. It was not original because it's a Y-pack one, but that was the alternator that was on it that I thought might be suspect. So I rigged a battery charger and battery up so that I could run the engine with the alternator wires disconnected. And I connected this 12-volt headlamp bulb up to it, and it very nearly blew the bulb at little over tick over speed. So I knew there was good output coming from the alternator. So I thought, well, okay, the rectifier is very old, the capacitor is very old, the Xena diode is very old. I get one of these for about £40 and it'll do away with a lot. So there's a solid state regulator rectifier which just arrived through the post the other day. I fitted that and I thought, well, that'll eliminate a lot of the suspects there. Let's connect that up and see what happens. So I connected it up, and we had very good output in that the engine would kick start even with the lights on, but as soon as you got any revs on, the lights would dim, and I don't think I'd have seen much in front of me if I'd gone out in the dark with it the way it was. And it wasn't right in that it was for some reason misfiring very badly, like it did on that ride after we got halfway round, if the lights were switched off, although it would run better if the lights were switched on, but the lights were quite dim. And I thought, well, this isn't right, what am I going to do now? So once again I ran it off the battery and I tried swapping various wires around from the alternator and anything that came to mind really, and still no success. The lights were dull, and I thought, well, and obviously I had the Xena diode disconnected and the rectifier disconnected. They were all out of the game altogether. You only had the alternator wires going into the two yellow wires as you're supposed to, and here's the red and black, which was supposedly giving me my 12 volts DC out, but they were only lighting the lights dim, and I had that misfire if the lights were switched off. So I thought, well, I'll just have a look on the internet and maybe get a Boya power box, because they're a little bit more of a reputable make than perhaps this is. It's a sort of unbranded one and it was quite cheap. But then it crossed my mind, before I just throw more money at it, let's just put everything back as it was, but check all the connections and make sure the earths are clean and things like that, and see what, if anything, might happen. And it might make a complete fool out of me now, but I have run the engine briefly and I was quite surprised to find that it started, and when it started I'd had the lights switched on, so it actually started with the headlamp switched on, no battery, just direct off the alternator, and the engine fired up and ran nicely. So I'm now probably going to make a complete fool of myself and try and prove that to be the case. It was also suggested that maybe there might be a problem in the ignition and maybe the condenser might be at fault or something. Well, I went through all that. I even put new points in it, brand new set of points. They made no difference. But let's see. I if I can demonstrate what I've discovered today. There we are. Whoops. Well, it took a few kicks, but the lights were switched on when that engine started with no battery. I think I'll see my way around in the dark with them. Note that the little side light bulb is also lit with the main beam there as well, so at kick-starting speeds I'm lighting those two up, headlamp and side lamp bulb together, and the tail lamp. The engine's starting, so I've obviously got a very strong alternator there, and all the original old outdated electrical components are still in good working order. So I'm going to tidy up a few things, cable tie some wires up out the way, stick the points cover back on. I'll verify that the timing is as it should be, get the seat back on it, and hopefully I might be able to go for a more successful ride than last time on it soon. Stop it by snapping the throttle open, sometimes it works. I think that was more difficult to start that time due to the way I'd stopped the engine. I think I possibly flooded it or something, but we can see that it's got a very strong alternator that will start that engine with the lights on a kickstart with no battery, so I'm pretty confident that I can probably take this out, do a ride and expect to come home on it. So I'm going to make it ready to go, and hopefully in the very near future we'll get a more successful ride on it than last time.